Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where every day I take a deep dive into the world of technology and business and explore the impact that it has on our lives. I'm your host, and today I've got a great guest. His name's Eric McDonald, and he is the CEO and board chairman of CoinLion, which is a leading cryptocurrency auto trading platform. And in these uncertain times, with global energy crisis, rising inflation, and gold no longer being the safe haven it once was, many investors are seeking new ways to diversify their portfolios. And on this podcast, I've spoken with so many people about those alternative investments, from horses to wine to watches and even sneakers. But could crypto be the answer? So today I want to approach this from a cryptocurrency trading for beginners point of view, because I know there's a lot of people that have been scared off crypto, but there is so much more to be hopeful for. And of course, bad news sells, good news doesn't. So I want to explore the future of crypto and also learn more about Eric's story of building a tech company with a long-term view and leading in these times of uncertainty that we all find ourselves. So buckle up and hold on tight, because today I'm going to beam your ears all the way to South Dakota, where with Eric's help, we're going to unravel the complexities of the crypto market and also explore how platforms like CoinLion are making it easier for anyone to invest in crypto and minimize some of that risk. But hey, I'm not an expert in this, so let's get Eric on to find out more. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, Neil, thanks for having me on. My name's Eric McDonald. I'm currently the CEO of a cryptocurrency company called CoinLion. And CoinLion, we'll kind of dive into that. It's an exchange, it's an auto trader. And so maybe the question is, all right, how did I get here? And I've had a really fun run prior to, jumping into CoinLion. I spent 20 years building a healthcare technology company that was called DocuTAP. And it's now known as Xperity Health. And this is a company I started in my basement. So I wrote all the original source code. My undergrad was in computer science mathematics, and I am a computer geek at heart. And so wrote all the original source code for what's known as an electronic medical record. And the niche that I ended up focusing on was urgent care clinics here in the US. And that was the only niche we went after. Now, it didn't start that way, but that's where after a few years, I realized, hey, I need to just go dominate like one niche in healthcare. And we did that. We were the number one. And so it took technically 22 years before I had a great exit to do that. And everybody thought it was this overnight success story because they'd read about it in the papers. And it's like, no, it took, 2 decades. And so I went through those startup days. Like, it was brutal for 10 years, 12 years. Secured my Series A investors, which was a family office. So before that, I used angel investors, family office, and then went to venture capital, was backed by a group called Bessemer Venture Partners. These guys are like top tier, top notch VC guys here in the US. And they break the mold for, bad venture capital guys. They are phenomenal. They're just great individuals. And then we ended up bringing in Warburg Pincus, who has $50-60 billion under management. Again, another top tier private equity group. And then with their help and assistance, we turned that into a $1.25 billion company that I exited last year. Yeah. So it's really cool for me to be able to say, hey, I started a $1 billion company in my basement, or I started a company in my basement that turned into a $1 billion company. No, I'm not a billionaire. The venture capital private equity guys saw the bulk of that. But that's my background is I had to learn how to build a tech company, and I had to learn how to work with angel investors, venture capital, private equity, and ultimately get wins for everybody there. And did that over the course of, 2 decades.
And I'm curious, how did you go from health tech to crypto? I feel there's a lot to unpack there. There's something else happened, right?
No, you're right. And, I would go to these healthcare conferences and I'd get introduced to somebody and they're like, well, I've been in healthcare for 40 years and I know this person and I know that person. I jump from here to here to here. And I thought, wow, is that my life? I'm going to be stuck in healthcare my whole life. And I could see how that would be helpful. I can see how, you'd have all these relationships and you've built a really good reputation within that healthcare space. And part of me wonders why I didn't do that. There is an aspect where I really wanted something fresh and new. And I had some individuals that I had been introduced to that were in the crypto space. They had started CoinLion and they asked me if I would come onto their board of directors. And I was a little reluctant. I wasn't too big on the crypto space. I thought it was for all the weirdos. And as I understood it, I was like, wow, this technology has really got, room to grow. And with time, I got deeper into the organization, started guiding them a bit more. And I just got excited about it. And there was an excitement that I was outside of healthcare. Honestly, healthcare is great. And there's also some big downsides to healthcare. And so this has been really refreshing, in all honesty, to be outside of healthcare.
It's such a powerful story, incredible. And I love that journey you've been on. And I think anyone that's been in the blockchain or crypto space, they don't get it and then they get it. And then they find themselves talking about it and other people are looking at you like you're a heretic sometimes, But in light of the current global economic uncertainties and the decline of traditional safe haven assets, though, I've been speaking with people that are seeking alternative investments. And I've spoke to people investing in everything from wine, watches to sneakers. But can you expand on why you believe investors are increasingly seeking exposure to crypto and what kind of advantages crypto is offering in these uncertain times right now?
Yeah, I mean, for the U.S. dollar today, there's some large uncertainty with the U.S. dollar.
Yeah.
You see, China and Russia and a handful of other countries that are saying, you know what, we're kind of fed up with the U.S. having control with their dollar. We're going to move away from that as the reserve currency. And so I do think that there is a threat to the U.S. dollar. Is it going to happen overnight? No, but I think that with time it's going to be, chipped away at. And so, you look at the last 3 to 4 years as well, where we have printed more money in the U.S. Than ever before. And so all of a sudden, when you start looking at crypto, all of a sudden there's some aspects of crypto that are very attractive. Where like Bitcoin, for example, exactly how much is going to be minted every day. What that schedule looks like, and it's not based upon who's in office or who's not in office. And so there are some aspects of that that's very appealing. Now, what we have to be careful of is we can't lump all cryptocurrencies into the same basket as though they're all going to be equal. Just like you couldn't consider all currencies worldwide today as being equal. I think of my Delta Sky Miles as a form of currency. Like I can pay for flights with those. I can't walk into the grocery store and buy, milk, eggs, and steak with my Delta Sky Miles. Yet it's a form of a currency. And so it's very similar in the crypto space where not all cryptos are equal. And so I do think that some of the larger, like Ethereum and Bitcoin, those are great options for people from an investment perspective. There are a lot of others that are just, an ape token that really has no value behind it whatsoever. Is really hard for people to get their head wrapped around.
And I think you hit a great point now. And there'll be many people listening outside of this space. They find it incredibly daunting, overwhelming. They don't want to invest in something they don't understand and will probably walk straight into some kind of scam or fear that they're going to walk into a scam by drifting down some of those other coins that you mentioned. And for anyone listening in that situation, one of the things I try and do on the podcast is demystify this technology at a certain space. So what advice would you give to help them get started? And also, what role does CoinLion play in simplifying that process for them?
Yeah, no, really good question. So let me start with the CoinLion aspect. What do? We really try to make this simple for people. And when I got into the crypto space, I was fascinated by the technology, which I'll come back around to, but I was baffled by the complexity on like how hard it was just to buy some crypto. And it's gotten easier over the years, but that's our goal, is to make this just stupid simple for people. And so we do that in a couple different ways. One is the platform we have is just really pretty simple and straightforward. We're not trying to make a sophisticated platform for traders. We're trying to make a very simple platform for 95% of everybody else who just wants to buy some Bitcoin or some Ethereum. And what we've also done is we've removed all of these tokens that we believe are fairly volatile and unknown. And so we deal with the top, 5 to 10 tokens, and that's it. And so you're not going to find some of these obscure, weird ones. And so there are some people that's all they're after, is trying to find those, ones that are 0.000001 cents, and they want to, wait for that to turn into $5 and, make big dollars. That's rare. And there's more risk involved with those. So we just don't play in those games. We play in the broader space with the bigger token. So that's one way we simplify this. The other way we do this is CoinLion is all about auto trading. So our goal is to buy and sell. When the market pulls back, you buy and then you sell. And we have a unique way of doing this where a publisher, a sophisticated trader, can publish their strategies. And so your average Joe Blow, your average Sally can log in and create an account and just follow Neil Hughes. Let's pretend that you're the publisher.
Yeah.
And you know everything cold. You publish your strategies in a way that Bob or Sally can just subscribe and essentially inherit your strategy. Now they don't see them, they can't modify them. So when we say publish, nobody can see your secret sauce.
Yeah.
But I inherit it so that when your account buys, mine buys. When your algorithms say, hey, it's time to sell, my account sells. So I can literally just subscribe and walk away knowing that Neil is going to be doing the best he can for his or her algorithms. And so that's one way we make this really simple. It's also a way that we can protect and have some downside protection for the users. Most of our publishers now have stop losses in place with their strategy. So if the market pulls back 20%, then it exits those positions and sits tight for a certain period of time. And so, last year we just had a horrible year in crypto where it moved down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And many of our users were able to see exits at 20% loss versus being down 80%. And so there's a nice protection there for many of our users with those stop losses.
And of course, when we're talking about exchanges and things, people that are a little bit further down the road in blockchain and crypto will repeat that famous phrase, not your keys, not your coins. And a lot of that was around the collapse of the cryptocurrency exchange FTX. So I'm curious, what are some of the key lessons for crypto leaders, investors? What can they learn from that event, and how can these insights help shape the future of the industry and ensure it doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. And the reason is that anytime that there's greed that's driving an individual, you're kind of in trouble from day one. Like, what safeguards can you really put in place to protect somebody from greed in any business? And so when you look at some of the banks that have collapsed here in the U.S. recently, at some level, there was an aspect of greed driving those business decisions. Hey, we're going to focus on this area and we're going to invest in this way. And it's high risk, high reward, but when it's not, it collapses fast. And so, what's hard for me is answering that question in a way that can always guarantee nothing's ever going to fail.
Yeah.
You know, with respect to CoinLion, how do we protect ourselves from an FTX collapse? Well, we keep a 1-to-1 ratio at all times. We never use any of our user funds to like make other bets. And, you know, if you looked at our history, we've never done this. We haven't. We will have just loads of Bitcoin and Ethereum sitting in our safes. And while other people are taking that and investing it and making some other revenue, and then, you know, we've just never done that. We've always just said, hey, we're keeping all of our user assets in the safe. It's going to be there when they need it. It's sitting behind us. And it's very different than our banking world today. Our banking world today might have 15% of their assets in the bank. And so if there's a run on your banks today, well, you're going to have an issue.
Yeah.
And so, you know, honestly, we're being held as CoinLion here in the US, we're being held to a very, very high standard that, you know, even your banks don't adhere to. And in reality, I'm okay with that. And part of that is like, we're trying to build a solid business, create value that's not driven by greed. And that's not what FTX did.
And it's so important you mentioned that. And I think a lot of people have a certain perception around the world of crypto, but I think that has been shattered now because traditional banking does not look a good place to be right now. And I'm curious, last year you said, quite rightly, that crypto space was a little bit rough and very turbulent, more turbulent than usual, but things are picking up, looking much healthier this year. So as we look towards the future, how do you see the future of crypto and in not just 2023, but beyond? And how do you see the market evolving in terms of things like technology, regulation, and mainstream adoption?
Yeah, you know, the underlying technology is really, you know, in my opinion, it's fascinating. I really like how the blockchain works and functions. It's impressive.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, I really do see crypto being here for the long haul. I don't see it changing. I don't see crypto just imploding and going away. There's people that are like, hey, Bitcoin's going to go to zero, or Ethereum's just like literally going to go to zero overnight. It's like, no, it won't. I think you've had enough pullbacks and you've seen enough resistance that's not going to happen. And the underlying technology is what's, you know, going to allow that to happen. And so, you know, am I going to make any big bets on any specific tokens? Well, Bitcoin's one where I feel really confident that's going to be here, like, for the long haul. Ethereum is another one. I really don't see it going away. And other than those two, you're going to have some rising stars that come and go.
Yeah.
And what I might kind of look back to is in my prior life, like, how did I start DocuTAP, this healthcare tech company? Well, it was the handspring and the Palm Pilot that came out in like 1998, 1999. And I'm like, wow, I love that. That's the future of what we now know as mobile apps. Okay. And that's what it like built my entire business around, was the idea of the Palm Pilot and the handspring. There are people listening to this. Oh, and I'll throw in the BlackBerry.
Yeah.
There's people listening to this and they're like, I've never heard of those. Like, what's a Palm Pilot? What's a handspring or a BlackBerry? And in those three brands, like, they were it. Like, they were the craze for years, and then they disappeared. Now, handheld didn't disappear, right? In the same way that some cryptocurrencies, they're going to probably disappear.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency as a whole will not disappear. And that's where I think it's really helpful for a platform like CoinLion. We're keeping a close eye on those things, and we're making sure that we're only listing tokens that we know are going to see some success here. They pull back to a certain spot, then a lot of our publishers are going to delist them, take them out of their strategy. And so that protects the 95% that really don't have a clue about crypto. So again, this is one of the benefits of a CoinLion-like platform.
And just go back to your own experience here for a moment. For any business leader or startup founder or entrepreneur, you are the CEO and board chairman of CoinLion. You've also had a hugely successful exit, a 20-year overnight success story.
Yeah.
But how do you approach building a tech company with that long-term view? And what kind of strategies have you found most effective in ensuring sustainable growth and success? Because you're somebody that's done this in different industries over a long period of time. And I'm curious what you've seen here and what you've learned.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you have to build value.
Yeah.
And that's where in the crypto space, there's a lot of cryptocurrencies where when you really kind of dig down, you're like, hey, where is the true value here? And so ultimately, if your company, I don't know that it matters what sector you're in, if you're not providing value, it's not going to be a sustainable business.
Yeah.
If you have a crypto play and it's all about hype, I just want to hype this up, it's not going to last long. And I had an individual that I met about 3 months ago, and he lives in Puerto Rico now, and he moved there to protect his wealth. And he said about a year ago, he was worth $800 million, and now he's worth nothing.
Oh.
And I'm like, what? Like, how did that happen? Well, he's like, well, I created this token, and we launched this token, and it just went nuts. And that's when I was worth $800 million. I'm like, well, great. Well, what happened? He's like, well, it went to zero. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, like, what was the value that you were creating? He's like, well, there wasn't any value. It was just, we were trying to hype a token and see who would buy it. I'm like, okay, well, that's the issue, right? Like, yeah, you're worth $800 million. It's gone the next day because there's zero value. Yeah. And so, ultimately, it's just a great example of go build a company that has value. And the other thing is building businesses don't happen overnight. And especially in like healthcare tech or crypto space, it's easy to look at all these other companies and think that they're just being built overnight, instant success, and I'm the loser. Like, I can't get there. It's taken me years to do. And you're like, man, what's my problem? No, good businesses built on value, they take time to build. And so, for me, it's kind of like, hey, just go steady. Focus on building value. And, in the last 2 years, 90% of our efforts have not been in the marketing side. We're not trying to market to the masses. We've been focused on building all the important pillars to scale a business. And so now we're starting to tiptoe into that world of, hey, listen, we've got a lot of these pillars in place, and we're at a spot where you'd really start to scale. And so, there's a few things I might throw at that question, Neil. Building value and really making sure the pillars of an organization, the important pillars, are there for scalability.
It's funny, isn't it? I think everyone wants that shortcut. Everyone will come asking us both for that shortcut, but it simply doesn't exist, does it?
No, it doesn't. And that's another thing for FTX. Like, you look at their internal processes for just managing, growth, and they weren't there at all. And some of the stories we hear they're humorous, right? Where if somebody needs a reimbursement check, they'll just Slack a message over to the team and be like, hey, can I get reimbursed $50,000 for, this? And then they had a method where those would actually disappear and get deleted. Are you kidding me? That's their process. Like, you can't, first off, there's like, anytime you're deleting that stuff, horrible, right? There's zero process there. There's not a policy, and everything just got out of control with zero policies and zero procedures in place. So that's one example, and there's probably about 50 of those with FTX because they grew so fast. They thought they needed to. And so without those proper pillars, it's really easy for a company to implode.
And I think every business at the moment in every industry is going through a period of uncertainty, and many will be finding themselves in that uncertainty for the very first time, and it can be very challenging. And I'm curious, how do you navigate leading a company in the highly uncertain and extremely volatile crypto market? And what advice would you give to other leaders facing similar changes? Because it is a universal lesson that you've learned, and you've been through a few hard knocks along the way, I'm sure.
Yeah, most certainly. My kids at one point asked me, hey, did you ever almost shut down DocuTAP, my prior company? And I was like, oh, yeah, probably 6, 7, 8 times. So there's been lots of times in my prior life where I was so close to the edge of feeling like I have to shut it down. Thankfully, I did not. And so you're going to go through hard times. And, one of the big things is keeping your eyes on the horizon, being like, okay, what are my long-term goals here? Stay focused on those. This is so hard to do, but try hard not to make long-term business decisions based on your current cash position. Okay. And that's super hard to do. I only have X amount of cash in the bank, and I'm just going to start making some really bad long-term business decisions. It's hard to do. That's probably one of the biggest lessons I did learn in my prior company. And so here we are in crypto. It's very turbulent. In the US here, there's really some, there are regulations that we abide by, and that's great. We need more guidance. The SEC and the CFTC, this whole, is it a commodity? Is it a security? We really need to get some guidance here. Either we need a new body that's going to govern just cryptocurrency, or one of these two bodies needs to kind of step in and make some rules. But we're left in a spot where this is very uncertain right now. And so very turbulent times, very unsure. And so I have to keep my eyes on the horizon. And honestly, I have to try to keep most of this off of the radar of the team. Like, the last thing you want is your team getting caught up in all that turbulence as well. And that's part of the crappy part of being in an executive role, is sometimes you have to deal with all the hard, and your goal is to shield your team from some of that. You really don't want your team going home thinking, hey, is crypto crashing tomorrow? Is my company going to make it? You really need to have confidence for that team that you're going to lead them through this. And ultimately, I do believe that crypto is going to come around, but it's going to take some time. So, where do I think things are going to end up for 2023 and 24? We're going to end 23 in a better spot than we started 23. Like, I really believe that crypto as a whole is going to continue to see progress. We're going to have some, I think there's still going to be some dead bodies that float to the surface with respect to crypto companies. And maybe it's bank related, maybe it's crypto related, but there's people out there that have just made some really bad decisions that we haven't seen yet. They're kind of hiding and they'll bubble to the surface. And then regulatory, it's going to be a little bit of a bumpy road here, but I think within 12 months of now, maybe even 9 months, we're going to see some really good insight. Hey, this is the direction we're going. It's not final, but this is what's going to happen. And that's going to help the entire industry as a whole.
And if you think of that Steve Jobs quote, you can't join up the dots looking forward. You can only do it by looking backwards. And we started at your origin story today, the fantastic journey that you've been on. And I'm curious, now we've come full circle and we're looking towards the future. Are there any trends or insights that you're observing that could maybe shape the future of the tech industry, and also how those trends might intersect with the growth of crypto as well? Is there anything you're seeing around that?
Well, I think that AI as a whole is going to be impacting technology. And, almost every sector right now is questioning, hey, how does AI impact my business, my world? And so, crypto is probably no different. The question is, hey, how does it impact that? Probably lesser so than maybe other sectors. But that's probably the big item that everybody's got their eye on right now.
Completely agree with you. And to end the podcast on a light-hearted note, there's something I ask every single one of my guests, and that is there a song that you can leave us with? Maybe it helps you get your head in the zone, means something to you, or anything at all. All I ask is, what would you like to add to our Spotify playlist and why?
Yeah, no, great question. So songs kind of come and go for me, right? Like, and so I've got one song right now that I'm absolutely just in love with, and it kind of comes and goes, but it's by Eric Church, and it's called Carolina. So awesome one for me right now. The second one I'm going to throw at you, though, is one that has been with me just for, longer periods of time. It's one that just feeds my soul.
Yeah.
It feeds my soul, especially when things are hard, when things are, whether it's work related, personal related. And it's called Amadeo by Ryan Stevenson. And so that's one where, like, in the mornings, I'll just feed my soul with that one. So anyways, those are the two that come to mind right now.
Awesome. Love it. Well, I'll get both of those added for a Spotify playlist. And for anyone listening, maybe they're interested in exploring copy trading on the CoinLion platform, understanding how they can benefit from the expertise of seasoned traders, even if they've got no experience in the market themselves, or maybe you've got a few questions, want to join your community. What's the best starting point for everything then?
Yeah, hop out to our website, CoinLion.com. It's really easy to create an account. We do run you through a KYC process to verify your identity. A lot of FAQs, videos out there, but jump on the platform and take a look. It's really cool.
Well, I've been speaking to so many people. I know there's a lot of people interested in investing in crypto, but they are afraid to do so. They've heard those horror stories. They don't fully understand the space. And what I love about what you're doing here, you're just making it easier to get that understanding and just dip your toes in the water, see how it goes. So just a big thank you for sharing that and your inspirational origin story too. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Neil.
Wow, what a cool story and a great guy. A big thank you to Eric for coming on here and telling us about his origin story, talking about CoinLion and even having time to leave us with 2 tunes too for our Spotify playlist. And for me, it has been another fascinating dive into the world of crypto and the potential that it can hold for investors in these uncertain times. And from the outside looking in, from beginners to experienced traders, I've had a quick look, and CoinLion does seem to offer a simple, intuitive platform that allows users to dip in and copy expert trading strategies to maximize their potential for profit. But as we both discussed there ain't no shortcut to being rich. Otherwise we would all be rich, wouldn't we? So use your head, have a look around, maybe just learn a little bit more about how the scene works. And as I said in the episode there, if you dip your toes in, just get a better understanding. You don't even have to invest a penny. I think it's all about learning. Every day is a school day, as I always say. So if you're interested in learning more about CoinLion and its auto trading platform, just visit coinlion.com. And if you've got any questions for me or you've got anything you want to share, just email me techblogwriter@outlook.com. So a big thank you for joining me today here on Tech Talks Daily. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll tackle another topic tomorrow. So just a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.